So today we will talk about this topic that coaching. We talk about coaching so much, in the entire world, and we will talk about coaching from a new perspective. And today with me is Swami Narasimhananda Ji Maharaj. He's a young monk. He's much younger than me, and I'll be curious, Maharaj, to understand coaching from you. Do you know about this coaching and the impact?
Are you referring to coaching as in leadership coaching or personal coaching?
Coaching in general, I should say. Personal life coaching or leadership coaching, business coaching, because coaching never happens without a life.
Yes.
So predominantly, I should say that life coaching.
Life coaching. Now this has become a profession of its own, but India has been known to be the source or the origin, home of coaching, because if you go to the Upanishads, there were teachers who coached their disciples.
Really?
Through dialogues, yes. So, like we take the example of the Upanishad called Katha Upanishad. So, there we have the dialogue between the Lord of Death and Nachiketa, where there is a dialogue which transforms Nachiketa and his vision both about life and death.
Right.
So coaching is a old thing, it's an ancient thing, also found in civilizations like Chinese civilization or African civilization. Now it has become a fad or an in thing that coaching is given to leaders or other people, personal coaching, there are life coaches. Basically coaching is engaging in a conversation, in a dialogue. Absolutely. Where both the coach and the person who is coached stand to gain. Absolutely. So, though of course I am aware of the recent developments or the modern version of coaching, but I belong to a tradition which has been coaching. After all, monks across the world have been coaching people for centuries, for millennia now. So, as far as my take on coaching is concerned, I would say that it's like having a sounding board where you have a person who externalizes your thoughts, and it's like having a brainstorming session with yourself, only with the help of someone else. So that is very important, and basically a conversation is always important. Conversation over coffee or without coffee. Conversation itself is important, and I think most of the problems in the workplace or in home is caused because people don't open up, they don't speak.
Absolutely. Yes.
So coaching is something which makes you speak, talk about things, and I wish only that more people had heartfelt conversations. The world would have been a much better place to live in.
You are absolutely correct, Swamiji. So you talked about that it is coming from the Upanishad days. It is in the ancient India that wisdom is already shared. Yes. You are absolutely correct, and I completely in agreement with you, because coaching is a complete transformation about a person. Because sometimes people have this notion that coaching we need when we need to fix some problems or something like that, whatever the life situations they are going through. So how do you feel that it is important in today's context?
As I told you, it's not just important in today's context. Today probably it is being showcased in various venues. But coaching is something which is essential. It has been essential all through. And that's a nice thing you brought up. That people think that coaching is necessary only when something has gone wrong. And that's why things go wrong. Prayer is also another form of catharsis. In psychology, the word catharsis is used to describe the process by which a person vents out one's feelings, one's pent up emotions. So in prayer that comes out, only you target those emotions, you throw that emotions on a divine being, imagined or not imagined. Coaching does that with the help of a guide or a coach. And so just like a person needs to wash one's body, if not for oneself, for the sake of others who are nearby. Similarly, coaching is necessary because that's the washing of the mind. So I always say that we have a soap or we use deodorants to keep the body clean and not smelly.
Right.
But do we have any mechanism to take care of whatever garbage we put into our mind? And today's world, thanks to social media and thanks to the internet, unknowingly, without our any control, we get so much of garbage, and we input so much of garbage into our minds. So we need to have a mechanism where we can cleanse the mind, and coaching helps in a big way. So it should not be seen as something which is necessary for the psychologically ill or something which is necessary only for the depressed or a person who has to be fixed, because to say that I will fix somebody is also a wrong thing to say, incorrect thing to say, because no one can fix anyone but themselves. So it's not a fixing thing, but it is something which you need to do on a daily basis. And there are various ways to do it. Meditation also is a form of catharsis. So whatever mode a person feels convenient or comfortable with, one has to adopt to cleanse the mind. And once a person does that, it gives you tremendous resilience. Because undoubtedly we live in a time of huge stress. I don't think mankind has seen so much stress as an average person, particularly a person say in early 20s or in the early 30s suffers in 2022. So we are living in times of tremendous stress, and we do need a mechanism which addresses that issue. And unfortunately, world over, though in some places in the Europe and elsewhere, things are changing, but unfortunately world over, this is not taught to us in the regular educational system. And so that may be one reason why people are taking to coaching, and it has become a fad in many places. But as far as our country is concerned, as far as India is concerned, there needs to be a lot of more awareness, and people don't look at it for the therapeutic value or for the value it has for an ordinary person.
So I'm hearing Swamiji here that, and I'm so much impressed that belonging to a spiritual background, how you know so much about coaching, and it was so accurate. So I heard that you talked about that the coaching is applicable for the normal persons, because the normal persons also, they need to go from a point A to point B, and there the coaching serves. And also at the same time, you mentioned a very important point that coaching is about washing the mind, and because the world cleansing the mind. And the world is going through the stress. Stress was always there. It's not that the stress is coming today, but I'm in complete agreement that the complexity of the business has gone tremendously, up. And I recall my father used to work in coal mines, and he worked for the same company for 40 years. And in my case, it was, I think, 7 years average. I have worked in over 6 large companies across the world before I became a coach. So, and today when I talk about the average age of an employee in an organization, it is just 1 year and 3 months. So within this short span, a person goes out from the system, and the company also has to induct a new person. So it's not easy transitions, and this is creating a lot of stress. And on top of that, with the current work culture, which is hybrid, people are working from home, people are working from office, and all these things commuting together. So all these things has created, no doubt, the stress level to a different level. So in here, you mentioned about meditation and the mindfulness. How do you see that the coaches they should take these ideas of mindfulness and the meditation for their coaching? It may be a personal coaching for the business owners. It can be a personal coaching for a high achieving individual who wants to go to a new level. How do you see it?
Before I get into that point, I would like to clarify certain things. First thing is, why is it that in 2022 we are living in stressful times? Of course, stress was always there, but now we have many alternatives. The problem is, the human mind thinks, at least the modern human mind thinks, that the alternatives have to be, all the alternatives have to be experienced. That's a wrong thought. So one can experience some of the alternatives and let others go by. And one can experience satisfaction. So being content with oneself is what is not happening today, because we have got avenues of comparison, social media being one.
Right.
So you compare, and when you know that yes, I have got this mobile phone, right, but my friend has got a better mobile phone, or so she claims.
Right.
And so then you want to experience that mobile phone.
Right.
So there's an artificial need generated for something which you don't need in the first place.
Right.
So that kind of a problem where you have the problem of the plenty. That is the problem of society today.
Right.
And another thing you were saying, and so that reminded me that unfortunately coaching is directly connected mostly with the workplace. But I think that coaching should be something available to a kid, say a kid of 5 years, an adolescent of say 13 years, because coaching is a different way of addressing one's problems. And a kid has her own problems, a different dimension maybe, different level maybe. And I always believe that we have underestimated the power of children, their brightness, their freshness. And I think the society, Indian society and elsewhere also, would be a better place if we only include kids below 10 years of age, say 5 to 10 years of age, as decision makers. As decision makers, not as, I'm talking about decision makers. So we need, because if evolution is true, then the future generations are definitely smarter than what we have today. So coaching should not be restricted only to the workplace. It should percolate to all sections of society. And so now your question was that how do I see coaching coming as a
now, in terms of you talked about mindfulness and meditation.
Yes.
That
so the problem, you see, today one is the problem of the plenty. The other problem today is that people don't love themselves.
People don't love themselves.
When I put it like that, it may come off as a surprise. No, people always keep on boasting that I have done this, I have done that. The very fact that people boast is a sign that they don't love themselves. You see, they need validation from others. So that's why we have serious psychological conditions called FOMO, fear of missing out, where you need to get validation. You need to know what's happening in not your own life, but in others' life. And paradoxically, that leads to a situation where you are unaware of yourself, you are more aware of what's happening in others' lives. So we need to first have a mechanism which will make us rooted in our own selves, which will make us happy and content with ourselves, which will make us love ourselves, and also more forgiving of our own mistakes. When we can attain that kind of state, then coaching becomes our second nature. So unfortunately, when somebody talks about coaching, or just like now you said about mindfulness, meditation, people are put off. They think that, oh, something, this Babaji or something.
It's like a spiritual...
so nobody wants to go into that journey because they have this feeling that this journey will lead them away from experience. They think that if you are more rooted in oneself or your personality, you will not be able to enjoy that movie or that outing, or you will not be able to enjoy that particular food. That's the problem they have. But that's not true. When you are rooted in oneself, then you are able to enjoy or experience whatever experience you want to have, because nothing is pulling you back. Nothing is pulling you back. You're rooted in oneself, and you don't need to do something just to prove things to the others.
Absolutely.
You are just doing for the heck of it. You're just experiencing for the fun of it.
Right.
So this is something people don't understand, and that is the difference between a person, like we say in modern lingo, he has got it all sorted. So a person who has really got it all sorted is a person who has understood who she or he really is.
Right.
And that's the problem today. And so coaching is like a mirror.
Right.
I would like to also refer to the fact that in the past, in Indian courtrooms, like in the courts of kings, we had two people, essentially, particularly in the context of India. Also, it was the context of the West also.
Right.
So the first person was Guru, called in India, master or teacher.
Right.
Even in the Greek civilization or Roman civilization, we had a person who used to be the scholar.
Right.
And then there was the other person who is the jester. So in India, in Sanskrita, we call that person Vidushaka.
Right.
So the jester was a person who used to use satire or humor to point out to the king the misfailings or mistakes of the king, the failings of the king.
Right.
And similarly, the teacher was the person who used to counsel the king.
Right.
So it was very much there in the administration.
Right.
Now, because of change in the political scenario across the world, unfortunately, now the media has taken the role.
Right.
But media is also not
completely.
Yeah, media is also not completely not corrupt. So media is also corrupt. We know that because money corrupts, power corrupts. So media is also corrupt. But then media was the hope. Now, because of the revolution, which is slated to be the most powerful revolution after the industrial revolution, that's the internet revolution.
Right.
So revolution. See nowadays people don't give it to media. They simply post it on the YouTube or some other social media, and it goes viral, and that brings a lot of social impact and also impacts a lot of individual lives. So coaching is something which needs to be seen as an integral part of one's life.
Right.
But I think there is some problem with the nomenclature, because when you say coaching, for example, in law, it's considered really bad ethically to coach one's witness.
Right.
Okay, so coaching has also some kind of a negative meaning.
Right.
I think there is some kind of baggage behind that. It's a loaded term. There's some kind of baggage behind that word. But coaching, instead of coaching, I like the word mentoring.
Right.
And mentoring is something which is necessary for everyone today.
Right.
And a person who is more sorted than me, than I, is the person I go to for mentoring.
Right.
So that's what. That's why people used to go to monks, or people used to go to religious teachers, because somehow people think that they are more sorted, they have figured out their lives, or they have understood their priorities, etc. So in this context, we don't need to even present coaching as something equivalent to meditation or heartfulness or mindfulness, but as something which is integral. Just like we have food, we have our exercise, we take a shower, we need to have coaching on a daily basis. And for that to happen, we need to also understand the problem, as I told you, the problem of plenty, the problem of many alternatives, and the pressure, constant pressure on a person. Particularly, I always imagine, what is that a particular, say 12 years something is going through in this world today, because the parents are putting tremendous pressure, the peers are putting tremendous pressure, the society is putting tremendous pressure. When we were 12-year-old, we did not have so much of bother. We did not have any bother at all. So it's very difficult to understand the present generation. There are studies, there is research, like the generation Z, generation X, generation Y. So they are coming from a totally different millennials, for example. People who were born after 2000, people who are born after 2010. So coaching should be taught in schools. Coaching should be integrated into the curricula, and also people should be able to understand what it means. And just like in the case of therapy, psychological therapy, coaching is something which has to be understood. There needs to be more awareness about coaching. But unlike psychological therapy, which one wants something goes wrong, coaching is something which one should have on a regular basis.
I heard quite a few powerful things from you, Swamiji. Thank you so much for this inspirational conversation. Like you said that the children as young as 10 years old, they must be participating in the decision making process. Because as a parents, we are always protective, we feel that they don't know much, let us decide. So that is number one. And second, you talked about the mirroring. You're exactly on the dot. And coaching definitely helps to find out the blind spots, and which is utterly beneficial for anybody, because sometimes we do not know what we do not know. It always happens, and you are so correct on that. And also I heard from you that a lot of benefits what the coaching can bring to the current scenario, to the various aspects of life. And it was a very, very encouraging conversation. And all the coaches or the would-be coaches or the people who wants to be benefited, if you are listening to this video, if you want to know more about the coaching, probably I can inform you more. So it was my sheer luck today that I got a young monk with me, Swami Narasimhananda.
I'm not very young, I'm 48.
You are still much young, and he was editor of Prabuddha Bharat, the magazine which was started by Swami Vivekananda. He practices Vedanta, and he reads lots of books having various interests, and it was a very, very comforting and a very inspiring conversation with Swamiji today. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.